given that, what do you feel is an important part of creating that wonderful visit for a patient when they walk in the door?
So I think that's a great question because I feel like I am trying so hard to distance myself so much from the experience that patients are getting at a lot of these larger practices. And it's quite clear, especially when patients come in to see me, because they do describe experiences that they've had elsewhere, about how they feel rushed, about how they feel like they weren't listened to, how they are not sure what they were supposed to do, how they didn't feel like their problems were solved. The experience that I want to give patients, and what I was limited from doing at some of these other practices was to first and foremost give them the time. I feel like a lot of times I don't think that patients realize that oftentimes they are scheduled on top of other patients, meaning like they're given the same appointment time as other patients, or they're scheduled in like 5-minute increments, which is seems bizarre, but I'm telling you, it's done. Or they'll be triple booked, things like that, and if really at the end of the day revenue is your main goal, then you can piss a bunch of people off, but you can still stack up the dollar bills at the end of the day. And I think that because of the high demand for physician care, despite bad reviews or despite bad patient experiences, the demand itself will drive more patients to those practices. I really want patients to feel like they are being given the time of day. I want them to know that that's not how I schedule them. That also, I will tell you right now, from these initial steps in my in my own practice, can really hurt sometimes when you schedule out time for patients and then they end up not showing up, or for whatever reason, calling out last minute. It definitely does hurt. That being said, I'm never trying to shut a patient up. I am there to listen to their whole story. I will never make a patient book another visit if they have another problem. I've heard that so many times where patients tell me like I have more problem than they told me appointment. I would hate that as a patient too. I'm here right now, so I can talk about it right here, right now. I'm here, so I get that. And then along with that, comes being thorough. I feel like a lot of things are missed when you're rushing. When you are rushing, you might miss that tiny melanoma that the patient had hiding behind their ear, because you are so anticipating that next patient visit. May miss the fact that you prescribed a medication that starts with the same letter. You may miss the fact that a patient is actually in a bad home situation because you aren't focused on their emotional well-being. I feel like having a profession in medicine is so different than any other profession because a lot of things that there are a lot of things that you just are not allowed to miss when you are a provider. And so, I take my job very seriously and I take my patients very personally. And so, and I want them to feel like, no matter what, that they will be getting my full attention when they come in, and whatever time they need to solve their problem. And then beyond that, I also do feel like a lot of patients leave the visit and feel like they fall through the cracks, or they're not followed up on, they're cared about for the few moments that they're in the office. But for me, that's not the case. And honestly, for a lot of physicians, that's not the case. It's just that patients don't feel that. And so I make myself very available to my patients. And
Right.
obviously that can only go so far. It gets to a point, right now I'm still a very small practice. And so I can't give that personal care to all of my patients. But for as long as I have this practice running, I'll make sure that if I do have the luxury to actually expand this vision one day, I'll make sure that the ratio of providers to patients is such that that attention to solid quality medical care is always there.
I mean, I think it's very much appreciated as a patient, to know that there are physicians like you and to have experienced a physician like you who cares about their patients. And I know you mentioned when, patients sometimes cancel and all of that it might hurt you. I think that just shows how much you care about your patients. I also think it's kind of interesting that there's an element of psychology with every physician that at least I have come across. I'm sure you agree. I think that physicians are in a career where you don't just have the medicine that you're dealing with, but you also have to care for someone who's sitting in front of you and telling you about their problems. And so in terms of psychology, I think that you have to really listen, not just to their medical issues, but I think there's a big aspect where patients will also talk to you about other things going on in their lives. And I know that having a physician like you and having those conversations and just someone who is looking out for you during your visit is a very great part of a day. And really, sometimes medical visits can become like another obligation for some people, but when there are physicians like you who are willing to listen, I think that is really important and it really makes a difference to a lot of patients. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I will say that I think that, a lot of people might think of dermatology, as pimple popper MD, right? We're just here but I've had so many visits with patients who have, cried in the exam rooms because, these problems that might seem so minute to others, them up at night.
Right.
Patients who are so itchy that they can't sleep to the point that they would consider suicide because they just cannot
Right.
live this way. I have patients that, even though it may seem cosmetically unimportant to others, are so fixated on certain aspects of their skin that they can't function normally. And so, a lot of these issues that might seem trivial to others really do have an enormous psychological impact on patients. And so, so that's definitely one way that, going beyond just my specialty of dermatology, uh, dermatology does have an impact in kind of a more psychiatric aspect, but also, to your point, I feel like in a lot of ways that visit with a provider can be very therapeutic,
Mhm.
very cathartic, because, where else are a lot of these people going to be able to comfortably speak about the things that really upset them or feel
Mhm.
like someone really cares. I mean, some people, luckily, I have a wonderful support system, but not everybody has that inherent support system. And having people that offer you support and really truly care about you can really change the course of someone's day. So I hope that, especially in this crazy world today, that we live in with COVID and the emotional impact that that's had, I feel
Mhm.
like whatever I can add to sort of reverse this negative trend that's been going on for 2 to 3 years now, is my little way of supporting a better world.
Right. And I think that's great. I was wondering if you personally wanted to say anything about your journey to motherhood. I know you've mentioned it to me. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it or
Oh
and
yeah, absolutely. Even though it was like the most painful period of my life, I feel like when all was said and done, and I finally had my babies, um, and hopefully more to come,
yes.
I actually shared everything publicly because I felt like in some ways it was cathartic, but also in some ways I felt like if there were other people out there that were experiencing anything close to it, I felt so alone and isolated in that. And I felt like
Mhm.
if there was anyone in that position, I wanted them to know that they're not being singled out, that they're not being damned or cursed, and that even in the most dire of situations, that um, miraculously, you can actually come out of it and be happier than you ever were.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's just amazing. And I think what your words and sharing it, I think that's really going to help a lot of women and people who want to have children. And I think I'm sure that like it must be so hard to talk about, but I think that you are very brave and also just so like kind-hearted to think
Um,
of other people when thinking about that, you know?
I feel so blessed. Honestly, it was worth every tear, every part of it was worth it. And I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I do know that your time is very valuable, and I have a million questions I would love to ask you, but I do want to leave you with one question. So, like me, you and your mom have a very strong relationship, and then now you are a mom of twin girls. So, a question I always love to ask in every single one of these fireside chats is, what does the word feminism mean to you?
So it's funny, I never really put that much thought into feminist movements or feminism in the past. Despite always being a very independent, strong-minded, very driven woman,
Mhm.
um, I it's just never something I really subscribed to until more recently, um, because I think that um, for the longest time, luckily, I have always felt like I've had um, ample opportunities presented to me. I feel like I've, um, I despite being very driven and feeling like I've accomplished a lot of the things that I have because of that drive,
Mhm.
I'm very well aware that that I have been very lucky, and that some people are not offered the opportunities that I have. So I don't even pretend to think that everything that I've accomplished is solely due to myself. But I will say that, as I've gotten older, as I've experienced more things, there definitely are some inequalities that I've seen. And, the one that comes to mind more recently is that I've never given nearly enough credit to mothers out there in the world, because and this is, from a very objective standpoint, women, once they have babies,
Mhm.
especially working women, are just expected to do so much. And
Yeah.
that's from a very, I mean, it stood out to me so much that I've actually delved into the research and
Hmm.
into audiobooks on it, because I swear it's like you have babies and you suddenly are in the 1950s, because you're just expected to take on so
Right.
more duties than men are. And I'm sure that there are exceptions to the rule, but even the studies support that women do on an average 3 times more than the average father does once they have kids. And so, um, anyway, I've definitely diverted away from your question, but back to your question, feminism to me, I think really speaks to empowering women, in lifting other women up in their cause, in understanding other women's plights, and I think that is important because um, who else is gonna understand you better than your fellow woman? So that's really what it means to me, is that is to know that we are there for each other because we understand um, more than anyone else could the challenges that we deal with, and I feel like even in going through my career, and as I went through residency and through the military, there were definitely instances where I feel like women felt challenged by each other, or felt there was like a level of antagonism there because of the competition.
Right.
Um,
Yes.
and I feel like that is actually very anti-feminism because
Right.
I've experienced that numerous times in my career. Um, it's almost like the negative side of competitiveness, but I have also experienced a lot of the support and love that women have for each other, which I subscribe to as feminism.
Mhm.
Um, so I hope that, um, as I continue to move forward in my career, that I can offer as much as I can to other women that are in similar or dissimilar situations, because I can relate to them um, better than anybody else could, I suppose.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think it's interesting that you brought up, the different positives and negatives of, being a woman as compared like with the competition that women experience and the much higher expectations, honestly. So I think it's really inspiring that, women can have this shared collective experience that you mentioned of just supporting each other and having amazing careers like you and being amazing moms like you. And I'm just really glad that there are women in this world who care about other women and care about society in general. And just like you, who are making our world, better, a better place for everyone, a better place for us now and a better place for everyone in the future as well, or your kids, one day my kids, and the entire future generations. So
I mean, that's what I really hope for, and what I've sort of been fearful of since COVID started, because I feel like ever since COVID hit, I don't know, I feel like things have taken a turn for the worse, and I feel like it's really brought out a lot of the worst in people.
yeah.
And it does make me feel sad a little bit for these beautiful little beings that I've brought into the world, because I want them to experience a happy, loving earth. And so I really do hope that that we do see a trend towards love and harmony and support. As corny as that might sound, I really do want them to have a beautiful world to live in.
I think that I think that is beautiful, hearing you say that. And I completely agree. And with that, thank you so much, Dr. Kim. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. And I'm really grateful that you joined me and took time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation with me. And I know it's going to inspire many out there, including students like myself, And thanks to those of you who are watching for listening to our Fireside chat today. You can check out Dr. Kim's website at drkimdermatology.com. And with that, thank you so much. Post your comments below and subscribe.